the women's match of the night, DMD and Jamie Hayter, Toni Storm, Ruby Soho, a match, a rematch we saw, after DMD taking the throne of the Queen of Hearts in the tournament at the pay-per-view. This one, I thought the standouts to me were Hayter and Storm. I think they really carried this match personally. Every time we see Hayter, I think, she's just on the cusp of breaking out even more and more and more. Just give her that opportunity, because just her power, her performance, her just in-ring general, that she can, captivate the crowd and captivate and just set the tone of the match. I think she is just, they got a diamond in the rough right here. And I think they need to really push her, because, I would want to see her eventually break away from DMD and go on a run herself. I mean, this whole thing, DMD's group is great. It's been worked so well, so long, and she works really well with them in her corner, the DMD does. But I really enjoyed the Storm Hayter dynamic throughout this tag match. And it was a physical one. And I think this was a showcase of some of the top tier women in the division, and it shined in a good light. And I was very surprising by the ending, so if you're gonna, DMD doesn't take many pins, and she took a pretty clean pin tonight, or on yesterday on Dynamite. And so what do they plan on doing with that? We'll see. DMD beat Ruby with a pin, not a finisher, and Ruby beat Statlander with a roll-up, which I can't stand roll-ups. But Ruby beat DMD with a clean finisher. So
she did.
That's one up. Finally, she got one up on her. So hopefully, if they're going to go in on Ruby, you got to get going now, because you just beat an ex-champ.
Yeah, I mean, piggybacking off your initial comments, I mean, I do think that Jamie Hayter and Toni Storm stood out in a really good way. You and I have talked about this. I love the way that Jamie Hayter presents herself. She's kind of like a bully in the ring. She could tell she likes, and that, I mean, it makes sense when she talked about if she wasn't teamed up with Britt, she'd want to be a member of the Blackpool Combat Club.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she did. She talked about that, and it makes sense with how she presents herself, dude. She's just that girl's a bully in the ring, man. She has no problem. Like, her offense doesn't look pretty all the time, but it looks effective. You know what I mean?
It looks painful for sure.
She has no problem tossing people around, busting them up, knocking them over her knee. I love her offense in that regard. And she stands out in a good way in the division, in the sense that she is one of the few powerhouses. I mean, you got to say Statlander, Jade, and Jamie, right? She's up there.
Great.
And so I dig her work. Toni Storm, I said it, the biggest compliment I can give Toni is when I saw her go toe-to-toe with the DMD. Toni is clearly very comfortable in her own skin. And for us, like, in this business, it's really important that is something that you can't really teach, like, you either have that or you don't. Like, she doesn't wither in the spotlight. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't fade when the lights get bright.
Good point.
She's able to go toe to toe with Britt and not back down. And how many times have we seen Britt throw haymakers, verbal haymakers that undercut someone's? Britt gets a lot of backlash on social, right? And like, she always goes over on people, and she always has to make other people look bad and to make herself look good and all this stuff. The truth of the matter is, Britt in promo battles will absolutely eviscerate 98% of this roster. Male or female, Britt can absolutely rip your heart out. She will gut you. She has no problem going for the jugular and embarrassing you. She has no problem with it.
You're right.
Toni Storm took what Britt had to offer and shot right back at her. And that's one of the things I love about Toni. She clearly feels like a star who, no matter what, won't, like, she's gonna get over, bro. Like, Toni Storm has that it factor. That said, this was a big moment for Ruby in this match too, as you said, getting a victory over Britt. I don't know. I think out of all four of these competitors, the future is most unclear for Ruby.
Okay.
is she presented as a top level star? It's been off and on, and you and I have talked about that. I think that Britt, and I know that I'm going to get this is controversial, but I think that Britt has put enough tape together that I vehemently disagree with the people who say that she's not a good wrestler. I vehemently disagree with the fact that she's just talk.
I second that.
Britt absolutely is a superstar when it comes to her presentation. She walks the walk, she talks the talk. But in the squared circle, I think that Britt's one of the better competitors in AEW, and I mean
You're
that.
right.
You know, I don't think that you and I talk about this a lot, bro. One of the things you hate the most, and this is one of the things I struggle with Ruby is a veteran, but so often her offense, she feels tepid. She feels like she's holding back, right? And I don't think Britt does that. I don't think that you see a lot of moments where Britt is hesitant to hit a move or throw a forearm shot. I think that she gets too much slack. So to me, out of this match, I want to see where they go with Ruby the most because I have the most confidence. I think Jamie and Britt, there is tension there. There was a spot on the apron where Jamie was on the apron and Britt almost hit her.
Those little seeds.
The little seeds are planted. And I think that I agree with you 100%. Jamie eventually is going to break out, not too dissimilar to what we've seen with Wardlow and MJF. I think that there is something there between Britt and Jamie that could really build a star in Jamie Hayter. I already think that Toni Storm, even with Athena coming in, even with Jade being the star that we know she is, even though the landscape of the women's division is getting bigger and bigger with actual bona fide talent, I think that Toni is legit. I don't think that, but I think that Ruby has the most question marks going forward, and her getting a big victory over DMD, they need to capitalize on it, like you said, dude. They need to go in on it, or they're going to risk losing her altogether. My opinion.
Yeah, that is a good point, and I know it's a sensitive subject that we can't talk about because we'll spend an hour on. But the Thunder Rosa thing, you could have Ruby feud with Thunder being Thunder Rosa's next opponent, and Ruby can, ride that coattails of beating Rio and DMD, and now I'm going to beat you to become the champ, and then Thunder beating off Ruby to continue to be the champ, obviously, and then that would be 3 pretty compelling title defenses with Nyla, ex-champ, Serena, one of the best in the biz, and then Ruby, who's been on a slow rise to the top. So I think you could put her in that position as well, doing that.
And she's shown that, even after she's shown after beating Statlander, right? She's willing to do what it takes to win, right? And so, and her promo leading up to her match with Britt, it showed this fire and this grit, and that's what I want to see more out of Ruby, right? Yeah. Focusing on the good. I want to see more of Ruby saying, I need this, I have to win this, right? And she talked about for the longest time when she got here, just being happy to be here, happy to get this opportunity. Well, maybe she drops some of that and she starts to learn from the DMD that, to be at the top, you have to sometimes do whatever it takes. And her biggest win, I think, to date was beating Statlander in that tournament, right? I mean, she did get a win here over Britt in a tag team format, but in a singles win, I think this is that Statlander win is very big for her.
You're right.
And that was a face versus face match, right? Ruby clearly she could play the heel in a face versus face match against Thunder. I think that would work, SPD. I agree with you, especially with no clear contender emerging for Thunder Rosa. That's one right there that you could go to. I agree with you.